Well, it may take 4 years and up to 30 detectives, but the PSNI has said it is to launch a murder investigation into the deaths of 13 people on Bloody Sunday. At the heart of the inquiry will be the actions of some of the soldiers, as detailed in the Savile inquiry. Well, we can talk now to Douglas Murray, author of Bloody Sunday, Truth Lies in the Savile inquiry, and Kieran Shields, who represented 6 of the Bloody Sunday families at the Savile inquiry. Good morning, you're both very welcome to the programme. Douglas, if I can begin with you, how do you read this decision to launch a murder investigation?
Well, I think it's to be welcomed. Firstly, it's perfectly clear from the Savile inquiry that some of the soldiers should be and were guilty of shooting and killing innocent people on that day 40 years ago. Secondly, it's also perfectly clear from the Savile inquiry's report that a number of the soldiers lied to the inquiry and lied about what they had done. And I think it's extremely important that judicial inquiries, if they're set up, defend to the point of principle the importance of people telling the truth when they get to them. But that comes to a third point, which is why on earth, and this is my criticism of this, is that why on earth it should take 4 years and 30 officers to look into this. The Savile inquiry was the most deep, lengthy, costly, and in forensic analysis of what happened, that you couldn't know more about a single historical incident now than we do about that day.
But presumably the answer to that would be that the burden of proof for a criminal inquiry is completely different to that of a public inquiry.
No, not so different that it is going to take 4 years. I very much am concerned that in a situation like this, I think it's at least 4 years. In a situation like this could easily take longer than this. Let's not forget, all of these things take longer than anyone says they're going to from the outset. This is going to take longer than this, and in the end, this could be another thing to kick the ball into the long grass. I think that certain of the soldiers who are identifiable, I wrote about them in my book as well, they're just identifiable that they murdered people on that day, and for 4 decades that they've got away with that. And I think that they should not get away with that for another 4 years.
Let's bring Kieran Shields, who represented 6 of the Bloody Sunday families at the Savile inquiry, into this. Kieran, what's been your reaction? What have the families been saying to you since this decision was announced?
Well, it's not new to the families. In January 2011, Baden and Finucane lodged detailed submissions with the Public Prosecution Service in respect of all the clients that we represented, and there have been various communications with the PPS since then as to the progress of their consideration of the report. The families would have been well aware that there has been a directing officer appointed who in turn would have been meeting with police and obtaining senior counsel's advices in respect of the admissibility and so on of evidence was presented to Widgery and also to the Savile inquiry. And the families would also have been aware that we recently would have been in correspondence with the investigating officer within the Serious Crime Branch, who has been appointed. So this didn't come as a shock to the families yesterday. Certainly our clients would have been well aware and kept up to date with events as they have been happening.
Do you have concerns about the time frame being outlined? Share those concerns perhaps that Douglas expressed, that 4 years seems an inordinate amount of time?
Yes, Douglas is absolutely right about that. There's forensic evidence. It has been in place, particularly in respect of one soldier, Soldier F, who is at the heart of this. Soldier F's bullet, as far back as the 16th of February in 1972, was matched to that which killed Michael Kelly at the rubble barricade, and another soldier, Soldier G, who has since died, his bullet was found in Gerard Donaghy. The tribunal have concluded that, for example, that they were sure that the Soldier U shot Hugh Gilmore, that Soldier P shot Michael McDade and possibly William Nash, John Young, that LRM shot Kevin McElhinney, that F also shot Barney McGuigan and Paddy Doherty. And in fact, in 1972, even the RUC conclusion in respect of Jackie Duddy was that this was a clear-cut case of murder. So it shouldn't take 4 years in order to have a file to be directed on with the public prosecution.
Let's bring Douglas Murray back in. Douglas, though, what is a realistic outcome to any future trial should and when it takes place? Because the investigation takes place, then the papers would have to be referred to the DPP. And Eamon McCann this morning quoted in the Daily Telegraph as saying that the majority of victims' families have no desire to see former squaddies in their 60s go to prison. And I quote, particularly given all the amnesties there have been since then, there's a real possibility that given the number of paramilitary prisoners that were released under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, that an amnesty might be awarded. So this might all come to not nothing, but to a lot less than what the families might hope for.
Well, it's possible. I just think that my second point about the importance of people telling the truth to inquiries like this still holds. You see, if the soldiers had taken advantage of the opportunity that the Savile inquiry gave, which was a public interest immunity certificate, which meant that anyone who said the truth to the inquiry could not be the subject of subsequent prosecutions or legal actions. If they had taken that opportunity, they could have said honestly at that inquiry what they did, but they didn't. They lied and lied and lied. And in that situation, it's not therefore only, as I say, only what they did in 1972. It's what they lied about in front of an extremely costly and lengthy inquiry in 2002 when they gave evidence in London. So it's very important that both of these things, I think, are pursued. As to the thing of the possibility that an amnesty could happen across the board, there are many people who will feel very uneasy, and I'm certainly one of them, feel very uneasy about the idea that there would be troops going to prison at the time when everyone else, including many paramilitaries and others, are out. But the situation of Savile, I think, to an extent, has changed that. It's changed it because an opportunity to get to the truth of what happened on that day was partly wrecked by a number of soldiers simply refusing to answer the questions, refusing to be honest about what they did. And in that situation, I think you have to pursue that at the very least. And one other thing, in the case of, for instance, Soldier F, who has just been mentioned, that really is a very clear case indeed. And a prosecution and a conviction of him for murder, I think, would take very little time indeed.
Very briefly, Douglas, because we're running out of time. Listening to you this morning, some people might not recognise you as being from the right wing, shall we say. What is your view, the fact that you are keen to pursue a prosecution in this case? Tell us about Britain's relationship with Ireland, do you think?
Well, quickly, I mean, I'm a small C conservative, but I think that it's an extremely important thing that when your own side, as it were, and I'm a British citizen, when your own side, the British Army is an arm of the British state, when something goes very, very badly wrong, wickedly wrong, it is a very wicked thing to try to cover that over or to try to ignore it or not to sort it out. It's, apart from anything else, a terrible thing for the British Army. These men who committed murder in Derry in 1972 continued to have careers in the British Army. That isn't just bad for the people they killed. It's extremely bad for the army to have that situation. I think that these things should be sorted out. This should have been sorted out 40 years ago. And since it wasn't, I hope at the very least it can be sorted out now.
Douglas Murray and Kieran Shields, thank you both for joining us. And your thoughts on the development within this situation, this case to be launched, and the police telling us that they don't currently have the expertise free and available to undertake that investigation, and they've got dilemmas now around prioritisation. Your thoughts on that situation, very welcome. The text number